Hola, ¿cómo están? Soy Daniel, la pelota en la cabeza. Gracias nuevamente por su sintonía. Recuerden de suscribirse al canal. También pueden seguirme en Twitter y leer mis notas en lapelotaenlacabeza.com, un medio que ha sido oficializado por Conmebol, CONCACAF y la UEFA. Pero hoy tengo el agrado de presentarles al papá de un gran jugador de la NBA. Este jugador ha jugado varios partidos de estrellas, 9 veces ha sido seleccionado por el partido, para jugar el partido de estrellas. Y también ha sido seleccionado 4 veces como dentro del equipo defensivo de la NBA. Por lo tanto, voy a tener y voy a estar traduciendo al mismo tiempo la entrevista con el papá del gran Paul George. Así que no se muevan, que ya estaremos pronto con él. ¿No? ¿Qué hacemos? Les prometí, el papá de Paul George, el señor Paul George Sr. Thank you, Mr. George, for your time. I know it's very, very valuable, so I appreciate the time for doing this interview with me.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to start off just asking you, like, how did your son? I read he's from, like, you guys are originally from Palmdale, right?
No, we from like in the valley, from San
Oh, okay.
Pacoima.
Oh, ok, so not Palmdale. Básicamente estaba preguntando si hay distintas ciudades, una llama Palmdale, lo que había leído por internet, pero ellos son de otra ciudad llamada Pacoima, que está, para ubicarlo geográficamente, está cerca de, si que una ciudad como referencia sería Glendale, como a 20 minutos. It's about 20 minutes away from, it's what I'm explaining, about 20 minutes away from Glendale. Did your son, did he start playing basketball, or was he into other sports at first?
He started playing basketball. He started, playing on the streets with the kids, with the neighbor kids, and then from there, he started playing for like teams for like the YMCA, and then and then playing on the school team. But no, he started around, I would say, maybe about 8 or 9 years old, playing
Okay.
for the YMCA.
Ok. Así que le pregunté al señor George si su hijo siempre jugó al básquet o se dedicó a otros deportes. Dijo, empezó informalmente con los vecinos y después empezó a jugar en el YMCA, es un gimnasio acá de la zona también, y después en la escuela a los 8 o 9 años. Was he always, what was his initial position? I know with kids, they play, whatever. Was there any tendency, anything he liked playing initially?
Well, he didn't want to be a center. He didn't want to play that, the number 5. He didn't want to play that. And I was buying him at the time, Shaq was playing for Orlando Magic. And I knew he was going to be tall because he was taller than most of my friend kids. And we always had, all our kids around the same age. And so I said, well, you know what? This is going to be my little Shaq, And he pulled me to the side. He said, Dad, I am not going to be a center. So he took his basketball every day to school, practice on how to dribble and real good, far as with the basketball.
So he started practicing free throws.
Yes. He he wanted to play, but he didn't want to be the center. But it was funny because when he was in high school, he was taller than the center, so he got more rebounds than the center.
Así le pregunté al señor George, es gracioso, se le pregunté si el hijo, o sea, si tenía una preferencia de un puesto cuando era chiquito, y dijo que, o sea, Shaquille O'Neal estaba jugando y que él estaba preparando al hijo, como era muy alto para que juegue de pivot, pero el hijo, o sea, Paul George, el hijo de él, le pidió que él no quería jugar de pivot, que él quería jugar en otras posiciones y que por eso se la pasó practicando tiros libres y también los triples, pero que era más alto que el pivot del equipo y agarraba más rebotes, pero no quería jugar de pivot. And but I also want to ask you, like, because I know it's, with how it works here with schools and everything with high school, when did the scouts start noticing your son?
I would say around 11th grade. right when he was at the end of his high school. Um, he played for Pete Knight High School, and Paul was the second um, out of the, because that school was like a brand new school. So when he graduated, he was the like the second class.
Mhm.
Um, so once like the kids that was in front of him, like the 12th graders and all that, once they graduated, and then after that, Paul was, he was like their main big guy, you know. And so I would say around about between the 11th grade that we started, that, people was starting to, recognize him.
Oh, sorry to ask, around what age would that be? Like 15, 16?
Yes, he was
Okay.
around about 16. Yeah.
Okay. Le preguntaba más o menos como a qué edad fue que empezaron los visores de las escuelas universitarias a tomar nota del hijo y me dijo que fue alrededor de los 15 o 16 años. And what's the competition like at that level? Especially
Well,
here in California, we have a lot of kids that, up and coming kids in California at that age are trying to get the scholarships. Like, how hard is the competition already?
well, I mean, up there in the Antelope Valley, I mean, they didn't really, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot going on up there. Um, but I mean, as far as in their basketball record, like it was pretty good. And
Hmm.
so, and then Paul got on, he started getting on like a few traveling teams. He used to play for like the Pumps traveling team. And so he got like a lot of like exposure on the traveling team, because, like they was going all, traveling here, traveling there. So, like a lot of the big schools was, they were seeing him.
Hmm.
Um, so I think he got most of his like exposure when he was on the Pumps traveling team.
To join that traveling team, is it like they pre-select certain kids to go to those teams, right?
Yeah, they actually up in the Antelope Valley, Paul was the only kid, that they had, that they had picked out, and
Okay.
so they were going after him. Um, and once he got on the traveling team, he was playing with Drew Holiday and Clay Thompson, um, and they did real good. I mean, they was like, I think they were like, they had beat most of the teams, that was, that they played. I think they
Hmm.
came in either first or second place or something like that.
Yeah, with Clay Thompson and your son alone, I can only imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we had Drew Holiday too. He was, I mean, he was playing real good too.
Yeah.
So, but all three of them, yeah, I mean, they was real something to watch, you know.
Ujú. Así le pregunté al señor George, le preguntaba acerca del hijo, o sea, cómo fue el tema para llegar a la universidad. Hay como equipos que básicamente arman donde, digamos, preseleccionan ciertos chicos para jugar y estos chicos después viajan a distintos puntos para ir a jugar. Y en el caso de él, jugó con Clay Thompson y with who else was it? Other than Clay Thompson, you said one more player.
Uh, Holiday,
Oh, yeah, y Drew Holiday.
yeah.
Jugó con el hijo en la secundaria. Y les comentaba, le dije ya con tu hijo, con Clay Thompson, imagino que habrá sido ese equipo ya para jugar. Así que ganaron muchísimos partidos. And then from there, transitioning from high school to basic college basketball, how big is the transition from those levels?
Um, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, well, it was pretty hard, like at first, because when he first got there, he was going up against like some grown men coming out of high school, and then him trying to establish himself like around like the players that was already there. So and then he was trying to do all this like in the first season, like the first year there.
Ujú.
But after his second season, some of the senior guys, they had left, so they gave him a little bit more room where he can really, um, show his basketball skills and talent. And so his second year, he was really standing out real good.
Sí, le preguntaba acerca de la transición de jugar de lo que es secundaria a universidad y me dijo los primeros 2 años fueron difíciles porque habían jugadores ya experimentados en el equipo y una vez que ellos se fueron ya al segundo año del hijo ya, digamos, pudo pegar el salto. And then from there, so your son did he play all 4 years at college or did he?
No, he left his second year. Yeah.
Was that because I know a lot of times like the players they ask I'm sure they ask themselves should I enter the draft or not? Did he ask you in your case like what did you think he should do or was it something that he just did on his own?
Well, I mean, it was like a family thing because at the time, his second year there, um, like a lot of scouts was starting to come. They were starting to come to us and ask if he was thinking about going in the NBA. And so at that time, that was in 2010 and 2011. They were going to have a lockout. So Paul was playing real good at the time, real well, and we were getting um, words that he could be a lottery pick if he come out in 2010, which was his second year. But he wanted to stay. He wanted to stay and play maybe like another year or maybe 2 years there at Fresno State. But like I say, I was getting so many, calls and stuff saying, hey, you know what? This is the time. If Paul want to be in the NBA, this is the time you need to shine now. And so once it took me a while, me and his mom for a while because we didn't want to, push him. And then, once you say that you're going into the NBA, and if something happened, then you lose like your scholarship,
Yeah.
So, that's kind of very, very, real tricky. But, um, but, once we got with some positive people and they was, letting us know that, this is the right thing, and so we went, so we stayed and then we went, far as in him going into the NBA in 2010.
Ok, así le preguntaba acerca de, o sea, el hijo al segundo año de la universidad decidió entrar al draft de la NBA y le preguntaba si esa decisión fue una decisión en familia que hicieron o si fue más el hijo que él, digamos, decidió. Y dijo que fue en conjunto, recibieron muchas llamadas de muchos visores de la NBA y que creían como que era el momento como para que pegue el salto. El tema con estos chicos cuando, digamos, deciden entrar al draft es que pierden la beca universitaria. Entonces es una situación, como él decía, una situación bastante complicada. And before I ask the question, also I want to ask you, which teams wanted to draft your son?
It was, well, it was several teams that he went out and he worked for. He went out and worked for San Antonio, I believe. Uh, he worked for, I think, Chicago. Um, I don't want to really guess, but I know it was at least about a good 4 or 5 teams that was really, on him. But some of them, they wasn't lottery pick teams.
Wow.
So and then Indiana, when he got out there, he went out there and he worked out for them, and they liked him. Even San Antonio liked him. Even the Lakers wanted him. But
Oh,
at the time, I think the Lakers had like a 30-something pick, and so they knew he wasn't going to be like around. Um, but he had quite a few teams, that was after him.
I'm not even gonna ask about the Warriors. I know the Warriors back then it was a mess.
I think they knew that the Warriors even exist in 2010.
I know they were bad. Come on, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no, no. I
You know
mean,
the dark days. Nobody was a Warriors fan but me and my brother.
no, they wasn't even in the. It wasn't even thought of.
Así le preguntaba, le estaba preguntando a qué equipo se había interesado el hijo y me dijo San Antonio, Chicago, Indiana, se había interesado bastante, los Lakers también. Y obviamente el palito con los Warriors era como que le pregunté a los Warriors del 2010 eran un equipo inexistente y bueno, obviamente él me dijo, no, como que no existía en aquella época. And what's the night before, like the NBA draft? What is it like with like as parents and the players? I can only imagine there's like a lot of maybe stress and excitement at the same time.
Yes, all in one. I mean, it was very stressful, but it was very like excited for two. I think like the first night that we got there, it was just so many fans that's just everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it was just crazy. And then on the day of the draft, um, they had got all of the, you know, far as in the parents, um, and they got us all in one big room, and they just had, like a few parents that had been through this, and so they was, letting us know what we're gonna be facing um, with family and friends after this night. So I think Shaq's mom, she was there,
Mm.
and so she got up there and she had and she gave like a speech, and I think it was Chris Paul's father. He got up there and he said like a speech, but it was just, I mean, they were just telling us what we're gonna, be facing after like the draft night. So, and at that time, we still didn't know what number he was going to be picked at.
Ujú. Sí, así que le pregunté cómo es la noche anterior, porque me imaginaba, ¿no? La noche anterior al draft, que hay mucha emoción y estrés también de que no saben, o sea, si el hijo va a ser elegido o no. Y me dijo que la mamá de Shaquille O'Neal habló, el papá de Chris Paul también habló acerca de qué esperar, porque obviamente aparecen, digamos, personas interesadas, una que el hijo quede elegido en el draft. Entonces como que lo van preparando mentalmente para lo que va a ser esa situación, ¿no? And so your son finally got selected with Indiana Pacers. So I want to ask you, since you guys are here from LA, how hard was the transition for him to live in Indiana, which is completely different to what we have here?
Yes, it was very different. I mean, but I mean, he was just happy just being in the NBA. He didn't care. I mean, it could have been on like on the moon. You know, he was okay with it at the time. You know, he was I think what 19 years old. You know, so he was just. I mean, right after the draft, like the next day, they had put me and my son on a plane, and they flew us from New York to Indiana. Um, because that following day he had, um, he had to speak in front of the press and stuff like that. And so, and then that was my first time meeting Larry Bird.
What was
And
that like, meeting Larry Bird?
um, it was very strange. I mean, he, like I looks at him like like the same way I would look at um, Michael Jordan
Yeah.
and Johnson and all those guys. And but he's a kind of a laid back guy. He didn't really talk too much, but um, I had to pinch myself, that I was, like around, you know, and that's my first time, being um, like around legends, and so they made us feel very, very, comfortable, welcome, and so after, and then right before we drove up to the stadium off in Indiana, then the fans was all out there. Of course they had a big banner, welcome Paul George and all that. I mean, it was just, like I knew he was going to be like in a good place.
Ok. Sí, le preguntaba a él cómo es la transición, porque Los Ángeles e Indiana son dos ciudades totalmente diferentes. Los Ángeles es una ciudad cosmopolita, Indiana es más tranquilo, la gente está, digamos, una ciudad muy tranquila, muy lenta, digamos, comparación con Los Ángeles. Entonces le preguntaba cómo era eso. Entonces él me comentó que lo hicieron volar de Nueva York a Indiana y lo conoció al mismísimo Larry Bird y él dijo, se metía a pinchar porque no podía creer tener estas leyendas adelante mío. And for your son, in terms of playing for Indiana, like how hard was then the transition from going to university to NBA?
Well, it was like him being at Fresno all over again. He had to, he really had to really show himself. By him being a lottery pick, and at the time, like the head coach, I think his name was Brian. Um,
Could it be
Brian
Scala?
O'Neill, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
And so he didn't want to play rookies.
Oh,
And and so that kind of left a bad taste off in Paul's mouth, because he wanted to get out there like and play. Or as in practice and stuff like that, he would do very, very well. And then when it come game time, he wouldn't play. And so I think that's when Larry Bird kind of stepped in and got on the coach at the time and was asking him why you're not playing him. And the coach, from what I understand, told him, I don't play rookies, their first year. And so after that, he didn't have a job anymore.
yeah, basically.
Yeah. So and that's when Coach Virgo that's when they made him coach. And so after that, Paul was playing. He was starting after that. And he was, and they had a pretty good team. They were in the playoffs. His whole season, while he was there, they were getting better and better, until he had, that bad accident and broke his leg.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that also, because I have questions about that regarding we'll get to that regarding, all the injuries that have happened with because I have a theory about it. Le preguntaba también de cómo fue la transición para el hijo jugar en la NBA como novato, y el técnico que estaba en aquel momento no quería jugar novatos. Dijo, lo ponía en los entrenamientos, practicaba, pero nunca jugaba, hasta que Larry Bird le preguntó al técnico por qué no juega, y el técnico dijo, no juego con novatos, y el técnico al final dejó de ser técnico por esa razón, y el hijo terminó siendo titular. Sorry to ask, when was your son's injury? I forgot what year it was. Was it 2014?
I think it was in 2011.
Okay.
No.
He was practicing for Team USA, right?
Yes, he was practicing for that.
Yeah, I remember that.
A scrimmage games they were having out in Las Vegas. I think it was 2014 or 16 when he broke his leg.
Yeah, I do remember that was bad. I remember that. Yeah. I'm glad he was able to recover from that. But I'm gonna get back to that because I have a theory because of all this stuff that's happened last season. Le estoy preguntando a él cuándo fue su lesión el hijo, fue el 2016, así voy a hablar del tema de las lesiones de la NBA. And so then your son, he went from Indiana, basically, like I say, it's across the freeway to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
How was that like, playing for Oklahoma? And also want to ask you, now that everything's happened, that Oklahoma, which I didn't think they were going to win the championship, so I want to ask you, but I know that huge trade with your son coming here to the Clippers.
Yes.
Do you think if your son would have stayed in Oklahoma, they would have won something? Like they would have won a championship if you would have stayed there?
Not with the pieces that he had. I don't think so. Because Westbrook was on his way out too. So if Westbrook would have left, then it would have been Paul. Basically had to carry like the team more, and they still had Steven Adams. I mean, they would have had to pick up, somebody else, but I don't think he could have helped them win like a championship at that time.
Así le preguntaba a él, pues él fue de Indiana a Oklahoma, que es como digo yo, es cruzando la carretera, pues están ahí cerca una ciudad de la otra. Y le preguntaba ahora, o sea, después de él se fue de Oklahoma a los Clippers con un intercambio enorme que se hizo, y Oklahoma terminó armando el equipo que tiene ahora, que salió campeón. Te le preguntaba si él veía posibilidad, si él se hubiese quedado en Oklahoma, de haber ganado, y no cree porque ya Westbrook se estaba por ir y no creía como que estaban las piezas, digamos, encajadas como para ganar algo. And regarding the Clippers, do you think the main issue that, I mean, I'm a Warriors fan, so obviously, I'm always rooting for the Warriors, but I also like to analyze a lot. Do you think it's with the Clippers not winning? Do you think it was the injuries that came in place, or was there maybe something else that came in place that didn't let them, let the Clippers get to the finals or win a championship? Because they were pretty close.
Yes. Injuries play like a role on that road to try to get to the championship. When he was playing for him, they never was like 100%. Either he was okay, or else Leonard was either playing and then he wasn't not playing. So they were like always up and down, up and down, up and down. But I still think, he still had some good years there. He wound up taking them further than they ever been. If you look at last season, everybody was healthy that was on that team, and they got pushed out in the first round. So I have to scratch my head and say, hey, you know what? What if y'all would have kept Paul and gave him what he wanted? Which you would have went further in the playoffs, because they still had Harden and they still had Paul, they still would have had Paul, and then Leonard was he was healthy enough where he did play in the playoffs. So I just think somehow they just got stubborn and didn't want to give him what he wanted, and so hey, he had to do what he had to do.
Sí, le preguntaba a él si cuál cree que fue la clave porque los Clippers, o sea, con él y con Kawhi Leonard y con Harden y demás, o sea, ¿por qué no pudieron ganar un campeonato? Y dijo, básicamente son las lesiones. Y después la dirigencia medio como que se portó mal con el hijo también. Y I want to ask you, because I know the rumors were strong about Paul George going to the Warriors. I know Draymond Green spoke about it. He said that they obviously wanted him there. I obviously wanted your son to go to the Warriors as well. And so, do you think it was the Clippers also, like management, that got in the way of interfering of not allowing your son to go to the Warriors?
Oh yes, I mean he couldn't have went there. They were letting him go elsewhere,
Anywhere but the Warriors.
They didn't want him there. So, um, I mean the same way when he was with Indiana, when he wanted to leave, he didn't want to sign like another extension with him, and so he wanted to come home. Um, and they didn't want to send him to where he wanted to go. So that's how he winded up off in Oklahoma.
Did he want to go to the Lakers or the Clippers at the time?
It would have been either one of the teams.
Oh, okay. He just wanted to be back in LA, basically.
Yeah, he just wanted to be back. But then when he came home to the LA team, that's the team that he would, that's the team that he always wanted to play for when he was a kid.
Okay. Así me estaba contando él cuando estaba en Indiana, su hijo quería volver a jugar en Los Ángeles para los Lakers o los Clippers, pero también la dirigencia, como no querían mandarlo acá a Los Ángeles y por eso terminó en Oklahoma. And so I want to ask you also, because I know now I see your cap also, he's playing for, he's playing with the 76ers. How do you see them this season? Because I know last season it was with Embiid getting injured and all this other stuff that happened. Like, how do you see the 76ers for this season, starting with the proper preseason?
Well, he's definitely looking forward of getting back out there and hopefully playing with with like a whole healthy team. I mean, he got I mean, he really think they got like a good chance if everybody is, is healthy. Maxi's supposed to be real good. I mean, he's supposed to be, supposed to be 100%. Embiid, I don't know about him, but I've been hearing, that he's been doing good and he should be back for next season. And then they picked up, like a few other little pieces here and there. But on the east side, is not as strong as the west side. So I think if they can hold out and come back and still be healthy, I think they can go a long ways in the playoffs.
Ya, sí, le preguntaba de cómo veía el equipo, de poder, ahora Paul George está con Filadelfia, cómo lo veía para esta temporada. Y obviamente es con mucho optimismo, porque al parecer están todos sanos, obviamente no empezó la temporada ni nada, están todos digamos, va a empezar la pretemporada. Y sí, es verdad, el oeste es, digamos, en España es una carnicería. They say the West is going to be very, very tough. I can see, I'm looking at right now, I was already analyzing even last season as it was ending. I'm like, Dallas, they're going to get everybody at 100%. San Antonio 100%. Now Houston added Durant with I forgot his name, with Capella.
Yes.
And then the Warriors, they're saying that Horford is going to go to the Warriors. So it's going to be, the West is going to be, I always tell my friends, like, Oklahoma better just enjoy their championship because I don't see them winning it again.
Yeah. But I don't know. Oklahoma, I mean, like they really showed us that a fast young team can do it. So I think Oklahoma is still going to be rolling with the same pretty much team that they, that they won with, and they have like a lot of young power on that team. So I wouldn't count them out. Indiana, of course, they main star. They pretty much saying he's going to be out for the, for like the whole season.
Yeah.
And then they lost a few other players like Turner. I think he went to the Bucks. Um, so that, I mean, they kind of brought back memories when Paul was there. Like the main guy got hurt, and then everybody started leaving. So it's going to be for Indiana. I think it's going to take them a good little while for them to get back in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing I see that they can salvage because they have like a good coach there, so he can kind of get them back on the um, you know back where they're supposed to be. But as of right now, I think Indiana they're gonna be done for a while. So I mean, only ones that, but I do really think Oklahoma is still gonna be a team that we have to face.
Yeah, we'll still have to look out for them. And I think in the East, it's going to be obviously the Knicks,
Yeah,
the Cavs,
yeah.
and probably, I think actually, I mean, not because I'm talking to you, but I think the 76ers also, they're going to have a shot. The East League is a little bit more open with Orlando. I think so between those four because Boston, they're losing all their players.
Right.
I think it's between those four teams possibly winning the East. And the West, I honestly don't know.
Uh-huh.
It's the West is going to be very, very complicated.
Well, I'm kind of glad that we're not getting talked about like as much. They're not expecting too much from the 76ers. um, but maybe as the you know um, like the season get ready to start, then we might get put on the you know like on the spotlight. But our whole team really is around MB. Um, if he's ready to go, the 76ers they're gonna be ready to go too.
Así le preguntaba a él, o sea, los candidatos que ve del este son, o sea, Boston no los ve como candidatos, yo tampoco, porque han perdido muchos jugadores. Indiana habrá que ver ahora con la lesión de Halliburton y, bueno, Filadelfia sí se perfila como candidato mientras se mantengan sanos, lo que me está diciendo él depende de cómo esté Embiid, y obviamente están los Knicks, así veremos cómo está. So I just want to ask you, just to... regarding the injury, because I was taking notes on this of USA basketball. If we look at all the injuries that happened this season, could it be because of the Olympics, because of the high pressure, high stakes basketball we had in the summertime, then leading into the NBA season and the playoffs? Do you think that maybe it was because of the injuries of Tatum, your Halliburton? Could it be related to what happened to your son also?
I mean,
And Curry also, he also got injured.
yes. I mean, when you look at 82 games, and then some of them are back to back. I think some of that, I think they need to figure out how to not have back to back games.
That's something I've been saying for a long time. The little kid has never understood why they do back to back. I
Yes.
think it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I know in baseball, you can see baseball. I mean, half the time they're standing around,
Yeah.
But I mean, whoever don't think basketball is not physical, they need to get their eyes checked. But 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 it's a very physical game. And then I mean, these are grown men out there, going, really banging out there, and that I do think that do play a big part often, players getting injured. Um, and then some of the star players, of course, they always want to, the fans want to see like the stars out there. Well, you playing them back to back some games, and in a lot of them, they have to play, like the majority of the game, you know. So I
The
mean,
wear and tear.
get hurt,
Yeah.
a lot of wear and tear. Um, but if they can, either narrow it down to maybe 60 something games, um, but I don't think, I just think, when they get into the back to back games, and then anything outside of that, like playoffs, and then when you go to the Olympics, that's just more on a player. So, he's playing basketball, seemed like 24/7 out there.
Ya. Así le preguntaba a él porque el hijo tuvo una grave lesión. Acerca de las lesiones que tuvimos esta temporada, si tuvieron que ver con los Juegos Olímpicos. Y básicamente, o sea, si está diciendo lo mismo, o sea, juegan 82 partidos de temporada regular más los playoffs. Me hacía comparación en béisbol. En béisbol, la temporada regular son 162 partidos, pero muchos partidos no juegan. Después, lo que es la parte física es muchísimo menor a la NBA, como él decía. Los que arman el calendario deberían verse, o sea, revisar su visión porque, o sea, no se entiende cómo ponen partidos uno pegado al otro, le dicen en inglés el back-to-back. Es algo totalmente ilógico que yo hasta de chico pensaba lo mismo, decía, pero ¿cómo los hacen jugar un partido, viajar y jugar otro? Es como que no tiene sentido. And so I just wanted to ask you to start wrapping up. I don't know if your son mentioned anything, but we have the Olympics coming up in 2028. Do you think that's going to be his maybe closing moment for his career at the Olympics, along with, I'm thinking, even though he said no, LeBron James, Curry, Durant, Harden, Kawhi Leonard, like all these guys, and I even telling my friends, I'm like, do you guys realize like they're all retiring? Like we're getting old too.
Yeah.
Do you think, has your son mentioned anything like he wants to play in the Olympics here in LA in a couple of years? In 3 years, basically.
No, I don't, I think he's going to leave that to the younger guys, that's up and, starting to shine. At his age now, in a couple of years, he's 35 now. A couple more years, he'll be 37, maybe 38, somewhere around there. I just think he wouldn't want to try to go back out for the Olympics just because of his age.
Okay. Ok. Well, la última pregunta le hice fue si su hijo tiene, o sea, si le comentó acerca de querer retirarse en los Juegos Olímpicos con, digamos, con LeBron James, aunque dijo que no, pero por ahí cambia de idea, LeBron James, Curry y todos estos jugadores, ¿no? Y él me dijo que no cree, que él cree que el hijo le va a dejar ya el lugar, digamos, los lugares ya a la gente joven por la edad, porque tiene ya 35 años. So, I did want to thank you for your time. It's not every day that I get a chance to talk to a parent of an NBA player. And I had one more question to ask because I was thinking about this morning before we go, before I forget. How do you, as a parent, take the criticism that you read online of like your own son? Like, do you want to go on Twitter and just start replying to everybody? How do parents handle that?
Yeah, that is. I mean, you have to have some thick skin. Your skin have to be like leather. Because some of the comments that you hear is like, what, you know, but but it comes with the game. If you're doing good, they ain't gonna talk bad, you know. But if you're doing bad, they gonna let you know, that your game sucks, you know. And so, as a parent, when I do hear stuff like that, because I've heard the good and I've heard bad, And so I don't even mention it to my son, because I mean, like, I figure, you know, if I can hear it, he ought to be able to hear it too, you know. So when we like around each other, I don't bring up stuff like that. You
Makes
know,
sense.
I say, hey, you know what? It comes with the game. I mean, I mean, they talk about everybody, and then um, even some of just like Stephen A. Smith. Um, like, I like his show, love his show. You know, I like the guy because he doesn't back down. I mean, he's definitely gonna tell you if your game is not right. He's gonna let you know it. And then what I like about him, that he doesn't get personal. If he's talking about you because of your game, it's because of your game only. You know. So, but but hey, it comes with the game. You know, you're gonna, when he's doing good, he's on the high horse. When he's doing bad, he's on the, he's not that guy. So,
Ya. Así le pregunté, la última pregunta fue de cómo toma las críticas que le hacen al hijo, por ejemplo, muchas veces en Twitter y en redes sociales, y él dijo, hay que digamos, tener, o sea, hay que ser de acero para no, o sea, traduciendo, ¿no? O sea, hay que ser como de acero para no caer en los comentarios, ni contestar, ni nada, pero sí que es muy difícil, y que cuando está con el hijo nunca le lee ningún comentario de nada. Y también comentaba acerca de Stephen A. Smith. Él me decía que le gusta el tipo de cómo, digamos, comenta las cosas como son. So, I don't want to thank you now for all your time, and good luck this season with about to see with the Warriors, with
yeah.
76ers.
Okay.
I think we'll eventually get it with the Warriors, I think, before he retires.
It was funny because at the time when he was, when we knew that he wasn't going to be with the team that's out here, the my neighbors is real good friends with the owner of the team. And so every time we would see each other, he would ask me, "Hey, Paul, did your son think he want to go to the Golden State Warriors?" You know, I put in a good word for him. I'm like, well, I don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't. I don't try to, really put my 2 cents off in his, off in his business.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, if he could have went there and played with Draymond Green and then Steph Curry, I think they would have really had something special going.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then now they picked up Butler too.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to look at, some of these older guys now. I mean, they play like a whole different kind of role now. So, but if a coach could, could try and get like an older, uh, um, I would say, game out of the players, I think they could have done something over there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. So,
all
Mr. George,
age now.
so once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And no problem. And good luck with the 76ers.
All right, I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you very much.
All right, now, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.